Right, folks. Well, on Rockposer.com, I like to welcome a gentleman who, well, I'm going to be honest, I'm a big fan of his voice, and it's a real pleasure to have him come and chat with us this afternoon. And that is none other than Mr. Paul Shortino. Welcome to Rockposer.com.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, to say you've been a busy guy this year, I think is going to be a bit of an understatement, looking at what you've already released. Obviously, we had the Rough Cut album back in June. Obviously, we've got the new album with Tracy G. Again, a fantastic album. And you're also on Jack Frost Brothers in Arms album as well.
Yes, actually, Jack, I'm actually working on a King Kobra record with Carmine right now.
Wow, cool.
That's on Cleopatra Records. It'll be released next year. Carlos Cavazzo's on it as well. He's in the project. Robbie Lochner, we were working with for a while, but it's been very busy with Great Whites, Jack Russell's Great White.
Right.
So we've got Rowan Robertson. We've got a Brit in the band. So
You've got to have a Brit.
The guitar players are different this time around in the King Kobra. So it's the title of the album is Music is a Piece of Art. And basically we got a track on there about it. You know, music's a place where I can go, and you know, there's no one else to, you know, I can go to, and it's pretty much, it can relate to everybody. You know, when I think everybody should turn off the news and turn on the music and turn it up, you know, because that makes people feel good, you know. And what everybody's going through right now, get away from the TV, go back to turning on the radio or turn up your own stereo, turn up the music. And so we're working on this record, and it's been I've been really blessed that I have a studio in the house. So I've been, it's a whole new way of writing. So it's been interesting. And Robbie Lochner, I did an interview with him last night, and with another gentleman in Texas that has a radio station. And He worked on a couple of the songs, and then Carlos stepped in, and so we're working hard on that project. Did you lose me, or
no? You're fine. Carry on. Not a problem.
And so then I've been working with Tracy G, and we worked a year and a half on this record, and then we decided to call it like BlueDahlia to give it a name. But it was like we started out with one song. I think the bass player said, reach out to Paul. He's really an easygoing guy, and so he reached out to me, and we started with this song called Never Trouble Trouble. And then it went on to it's got a taste of Gary Moore and Led Zeppelin, I would think. It's.
I think.
And the last track is with a girl that was in Italy, a friend of mine, who plays violin, and so we stuck her on the solo, and it's just guitar and vocals, and it's called "Count on You," and so that's how we ended the album. And she played some really beautiful stuff on it. So I'm really excited about this record, BlueDahlia. I'm kind of excited about all of the stuff I've been doing, and I'm just been so blessed considering what's going on in the world.
Absolutely. I mean, the BlueDahlia, I got an email from the record company. Took me by surprise it coming out. I didn't know anything about it, and promptly dived over to Bandcamp and bought it and grabbed it. And I'm really enjoying it. Well, I'd say it's a good, solid hard rock album. It's exactly what it says on the tin, if that makes sense.
Yes. I like the version of our "You Don't Have to Say You Love Me." We were kind of going with the "Still Got the Blues" idea.
Yeah.
I told Tracy, let you, do some stuff that's just going to make you shine. One of my favorite songs on there is "Sunset Blue." That is kind of like. That's kind of my favorite because of where it goes. It just travels through different areas of music, Sounds like we cut the track in the studio, and even though we're in two different states.
Does that, do you think, make a difference? I mean, I think on some albums, you can tell there's a difference where all the musicians are in, say, 5 different countries. And yet there's other albums. I say this one, I didn't realise the two of you were not in the studio together. You can't tell.
Well, actually, what was interesting is that he would send me an idea, and then I know I've gotten really good at cutting up songs to make them songs. On the Rough Cut song, Amir, there's a song called Secrets, and he only had a couple ideas because we recorded a lot of this stuff back in 2017.
Right, okay.
And so we were going to put something out, and we just fell short of doing it. So he had this idea, and I kind of just took the ideas and made it out of 3 ideas, and came up with a melody that goes. It's really interesting. The Cry of the Wolf, the last song on the record, the Rough Cut record, is similar. It's got that Middle Eastern kind of a melody thing going on, and I think Amir, was surprised what I came up with on that song. But a lot of records are that people do from different parts of the world sometimes sound like that, and then some things you're really blessed on, it just kind of falls into place. And I cut up Sunset Blue and never expected that drum breakdown in the middle of the solo. That sounds like a Carmen Appice vibe.
Yeah.
I even told him about it, when I was tracking this stuff. And but it sounds like we were in the room together live. And then we come back, and he came back with a whole other section, the stop parts in that song, which I had to write more material for. And it was unexpected. I chopped up the song to be different than it was. And then he took my idea and just took it one step further. And then when I got the tracks, the stems back, and I was going, wow, I've got to do something else here, and wasn't expecting it. So Never Trouble was the first song that we did on that record, and there was no editing going on. It just, he sent me the track, and it just, boom. I'll tell you what's interesting is I'll admit, I'm not the great lyricist. There are people that I've worked with that are just, they can jot something down within minutes, and it's a song. And, that's one of my hardest things. The melody might come first, and arranging people's ideas might come into effect in a melody, and then it's like, okay, what am I going to write about?
Well, you're far more skillful than I am, Paul. Trust me. I wouldn't know where to start.
And I never write about it. It always ends up, something happens that this cliche come along, and it swings with a part that's a chorus, and I'll go, wow, now I've got to write something that fits this.
Yeah, no pressure.
This is a strong hook. So I've got to come up now with something that's going on, like We Will Rise on that record. It just was going on. I drove down Las Vegas. Well, when they first shut everything down,
right,
I was driving through Las Vegas, the Strip, and everything was just like, it was like a ghost town. Like, it was like something out of the Twilight Zone. Gotcha. They had cops parked in areas where you couldn't go in, and there were nobody on the streets. And I did this video footage for, I don't know what I think I was going to use it for. I did a Shortino album with a Japanese producer on Ward Records that was released in 2020. And we did a remake of Send in the Clowns, and we did that with Benny Paul before he passed away for Carrot Top. And it's on YouTube. It's a heavy metal version of Send in the Clowns. It starts out, isn't it rich, with the orchestra? Aren't we burying me on the ground and you in the air? Send in the clown instead of the clowns. And then it goes, plum, 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 and Benny Paul comes in and So we recut it with Marco Mendoza on bass.
Right.
And this Japanese guitar player, Nozu Milwaukee, also produced the record. And it came out in, I think it was April 24th of 2020. Thank God we did the videos beforehand. And you know, it just fell off the charts, you know, because of what went on with COVID. So, you know, so anyways, I just hope everybody kind of gets back to normal and then we get to play some of this music. We actually were trying to get a gig booked with Ripper Owens. He has a project out there when he's not doing this priest thing that is either with the Dia Disciples or these two other vocalists. I'm trying to think of the title of their band, but
yeah, it's the Three something or other. He just, funny enough, I got an email. I can't remember which. Was it an Italian band saying an email through today that he's working on something else? There's another guy who never seems to stop.
Yeah, and so they wanted us to, you know, do a show together, and it would have been our first BlueDahlia show. Right. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to go out and play that stuff because it's not even the rough cut stuff if it's possible, but I know that we're going to tour the King Kobra, and actually King Kobra is coming out with a vinyl along with it. Excellent. Because the artwork on it is music is a piece of art. It's got the two drums with the KK logo, and then he's got the KK logo up here, but up the middle is a guitar, the bottom of the guitar is a bass of the guitar, right, and then the head of the guitar is a microphone. So it's this piece of art which is kind of really cool. This friend of mine is doing the artwork, and Chris Connick, he's a tattoo artist. Okay. But actually the painting that's a real painting on BlueDahlia. This friend of mine, A.D. Cook, is a painter, and that painting is 6 feet. Wow. And so a CEO ended up buying it, and it's his, but he had the release. In the back cover is another one of his paintings. People can look at his stuff at adcook.com. He's got some really neat stuff. But I saw that portrait and I went, wow, this is really cool. It's an actual painting. And he had he says, you want to use it? And I went, I'd love to use it. He says, well, this is something that's been on my bucket list, so you can use it do anything you want with it. And I went, wow, how cool is that? That's cool. I don't know how it's going to go over with a guy wearing that shirt. You know, you'd have to shrink it down. It might look cool, but you know, a full size, you know, the chick covering up her boobs. I just don't know about that. So,
what I was going to ask you, Paul, is what still drives you to record new music? You know, you and I, we shouldn't talk about age, etc. But you know, to still have that drive.
You know, I'm just really grateful. I still got my hair and my teeth.
Likewise.
You know, and I can still sing, and I'm just really blessed. And I think what's happened in my career was maybe, especially the first Rough Cut album. We waited a year. Ted Templeman signed the band, so we waited a year, and we were kind of signed before the Motley Crues and the Rats, and you know, I mean, we did a lot of stuff with Ronnie in the studio, and I think if Ronnie would have produced that first record, our record would have come out sooner. It would have come out when Holy Diver would have come out. Gotcha. It would have been a lot rawer. Like his album was very raw. Yeah. We brought in Tom Allum, who did a lot of Priest stuff, and so he was looking into the production part of it, and I think Dreamin' Again was a single, and they should have probably made it a single. But Ronnie and Taker, and we did some stuff with him, and timing's everything in the music industry. Sure. And I think we waited so long for a producer for the band, because Ted Templeman, we really wanted him to produce the band. But at the time when he signed Rough Cut to Warner Brothers, Tom Wally was our A&R guy. He left to go to Capitol, and eventually ended up at the head of Interscope, president over there, and now he's back at Warner Brothers. But the labels aren't the same as they were back then. So to make a long story endless, we waited for Ted to finish this record he was doing with Clapton and Lindsey Buckingham, and so that's how we ended up with Tom Allen. But Ronnie was like finished with Holy Diver, and we had already had some him, and I think that the band would have done better if we were to have been released sooner, like Rat did well for radio anyways. Because Tippa Gore put on that sticker, and everybody thought that the Rough Cut album was really different than really what was inside. It wasn't so dark and heavy as, the cover was, and we had to come up with a cover. Everything was last minute with the label because, they signed us, and then we lost our A&R guy. So, it was like the guy that was plugging for us all the way along through the studio was gone. So they didn't even, when we were out, we're touring with Ronnie Dio's Sacred Heart, and we're out with Crocus and Accept doing, some dates, some really good stadium dates, and, people from the label didn't even know there was a band called Rough Cut on the label. So it's like, being signed to a big label sometimes isn't the best thing in the world because you can get lost in the shuffle. ZZ Top was coming. They had their album coming out. Van Halen. Everybody had their records coming out. And Madonna, when Rough Cut released their album, finally got to release their album. And it was like, we just kind of got lost in the shuffle. And so what's been great about that is that I didn't get locked into just one genre of stuff. Right. I've reached out to do other things, I like singing even some old standards. And when Tracy and it started sending me tracks, that was so far. I've done some solo stuff that is, it's a conglomeration. I did a blues record, but it really wasn't with horns on it and everything. And it really wasn't where I wanted to go. This has got a mood. This has still got some part of my roots in the people that I grew up loving to listen to. Like I really was into Paul Rogers. I was 16. I got to meet Muddy Waters and T-Bone Walker at a place called the Kaleidoscope, which turned into the Aquarius Theater. Then it turned into Star Search. But when I moved to California in 1967, there was all of like Jim Morrison and Hendrix and Janis Joplin. Here I'm walking around with penny loafers and peg pants from the Midwest, and it's beads and sandals and tie-dyes, And I didn't fit in too well, but I was just surrounded by all of this great music. And there were so many things going on. I grew up in Glendale, California, and they were having like free, or concerts for like $5, seeing, Neil Young and Johnny Winters, Edgar Winters. I mean, there was just a whole different vibe going on. And to meet Muddy Waters at 16 years old with T-Bone Walker in their dressing room was a trip. Them going, hey, come on over here and drink some Southern Comfort. Wow. And I'm going, whoa, I didn't even know who they were until then I got to see them perform, hang out with them. It just so happened my neighbor was you walked in his house and it was like a hoarder of 45s and 78s. And he had, you just kind of walked through the house and there were these pathways through the house, and he had the harmonica player from Muddy Waters was staying at his house. So he says, you guys, we were just, I was playing in bars at 16, 17, but, I was just getting exposed to Creed's Clearwater, Iron Butterfly, Cream, and we're playing this stuff in bars, and because the drummer was old enough, and so we'd have to go into a room, but we could go out and play. So here, then we go and meet these guys who were like, the Rolling Stones were listening to these cats, you know. Zeppelin was listening to these guys, you know. I mean, so I did a record called Paul Shortino and the Rhythm Junkies, and it was with some blues guys, and it was a conglomeration of songs that, you know, but this record was kind of this BlueDahlia thing that we put it together. It was an old Alan Ladd movie. Everybody's going, well, I saw Black Dahlia, which is kind of like a story that happened in Las Vegas or Los Angeles. But BlueDahlia is this old Alan Ladd movie with Veronica Lake, and I just combined the word instead of making it two words. And that's why the cover's kind of blue, and, you know, it was kind of trying to connect with the blues rock vibe that we were influenced by. You know, it's got a heavy vibe to it, but it's got some Gary Moore influence, you know, to where he kind of got influenced in that blues stuff, you know. So like even when we did You Don't Have to Say You Love Me, I just thought that the whole guitar thing is such a melodic thing that it would you know, and then he goes off in the end, you know, where I've heard Tom Jones do that song. I'm a big Dusty Springfield fan, who was and you know, it's really interesting. I just found out recently that Simon Napier Bell, who used to manage the Buffalo Springfield, was co-writer on that song. And he also was one of the producers of Raiding the Rock Vault, which was a show here in Las Vegas, combined of a bunch of rock, you know, old rock stars, classic rock guys doing classic rock music. So what a trip to put that song out. And then I look at the credits and his name's on there. And I didn't know because the label had to, you know, get licensing for that. So it's kind of a trip. Absolutely. I always wanted to do that song. I'm in love with Dusty Springfield. I mean, her voice is just... Then I heard Tom Jones. He's a Welsh lad, and he kicked the hell out of that song. He
still sings so way. Well. He's just incredible. You consider, I mean, how old is he now? 80, and yet his vocals are still incredible.
And he's still got his voice. You know, it's just you know, guys that really. You know, there's some guys out there that just lost their voice. I think it was John Sebastian. They were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they got up to perform, and he had lost his voice. I guess, you know what? The more you use it and the more you do it, it's like a muscle. You can hold on to it. If you abuse it and overdo it, you know, I mean, there's guys out there that are having a rough time, you know. You know, I mean, Robert Plant can't do the things that he did it in the old days, or he could do them, and maybe he doesn't want to do them because it's fucking, you know, when you get older, it's like, you don't want to kill yourself. I mean, some of that early stuff, rough cut stuff, you know, you get in a studio and you're full of piss and vinegar, and you want to show everybody everything you can do.
Sure.
Then you get out on the road and you're touring and you're going, hey, shit, I can't hit that note, you know? Or I remember at one point that we were, Rough Cut was out with Dio, or it might have been with Accept, but we were also doing gigs in between the festivals or the stadium gigs, right? So I remember doing Rockin' the USA. They wanted to start out with that song. So, you know, it was like, so everybody start your engines. You're way up here, right? And my voice was like just burnt. So it was like, so everybody start your engines. It sounded like the Cookie Monster stuff that's hip today, right? But by the end of the song, my voice kind of, you know, warmed up, and I was able to get through it. But you know, now, I mean, Paul Rodgers was smart.
He can still sing.
I can say he sounds just like he did the day he frickin' put out a record.
Absolutely.
You know what? He wrote everything in his comfort zone.
Well, when did I saw Bad Company be? About 3 years ago. and his vocals, it just it made it the hairs of my arms stand up. It was just
he's still got it. I mean, he didn't have to, even when he did some Queen stuff. He's he's one of my favorite singers. I mean, Steve Marriott. Most of the guys that I love are British. They come out of Britain. David Coverdale, what a great singer. And he still makes it happen. We all have our good nights and our bad nights, and that's just the way it is, because it's a physical thing, like drummers, And, in fact, they said that singing sometimes can be as hard as a guy working on the street with a jackhammer. And I went, really? I never thought about it that way, but I love singing. So I've gotten to a point where you find there's this real fine line like that. There's a texture of my voice low. It's kind of cool. And then there's a texture of my higher voice, head voice, that's still kind of cool. It has its vibe. Right. And, but I kind of like staying down there in the low register, that's got its own, like that Rough Cut song, Bed of Black Roses. It's there's a fine line that I found by being in the studio, which is really great when you have your own studio. There's a good thing about it, and there's a bad thing about it. You can be doing it to where you look up your hind end, and you find, or there can be a time where you find it. But when you're singing for someone else, and you're in a room and they're on the other side, they kind of tend to push you maybe over the limit,
right? Okay.
Or over the top a little bit. They make you want to do your best, or hey, let me show you what I can do. And sometimes you can get lazy in the studio. But I found that for me, doing line for line sometimes, even if you know the song, you can actually get the passion and the vibe out. There's only a few times I've recorded songs. I was doing a record in Germany, and the engineer was in there getting the sounds, and I did this song called "Nothing Gonna Stop Me." We had a string quartet on it, and it was a very organic, acoustic kind of song. And it was really about my life and about anybody's life, not to give up, because nothing's going to stop me. And, so I'm singing this song and my own hairs are standing up. So I know when I get that happening.
You're in the zone. Yeah.
Just like we just did recently, we did for Ronnie Dio's anniversary of his birthday, I did a version with Rowan Robertson, a short version of Catch the Rainbow. And we recorded it live, and the piano player playing on it is Barry Manilow's piano player. So we did it at his studio, did it live, and we did a little solo, just the melody, and then it was just a very short version. I'll send it to you. And
I'd love to hear that. Absolutely. Thank you.
And it made my hair on my own arm stand up, And now Carmine's thinking about I don't know what they did with it. It was promoted it got lost in the shuffle of everything that was going on, Some people picked up on it. And so anyways, I have it, and I'll send it to you. It's really a beautiful version of it. And Rowan did a great solo on it. But, you catch magic sometimes when you're doing things together.
Yeah.
You
can't always plan things.
Sometimes you can do it when you're not together, but it's a little bit more difficult. There was something to say about all of the records that were recorded collectively in the same place. Like some of the first Led Zeppelin stuff, they just baffled everything off and wouldn't have let Atlantic Records in there, and they just did their own thing. And that when it came out, it was like, the A&R guy got to hear it too. They locked everybody out of the studio, which I read this whole thing on them, and it was like, that's the way to do it, You go in there and you spend time, you lock everybody out, you lock yourself in there among yourselves if you're going to write like that. And some of this BlueDahlia stuff, it copped a vibe where it felt like we were right there, you know? And I don't get bored listening to it. The last song, Count on You, was it can be related to anybody.
Right.
But
yeah.
it was me and the big guy upstairs. I can always count on him, you know. Can always rely on him. But also I could relate to it with my wife and my son, family members that are always been there, you know, who kind of supported me when I was into the music industry, which isn't the, you know, the greatest industry to be in, you know. It's a roller coaster. You could be at your highest peak and then you're at your lowest peak, and it's another climb, you know, to get wherever you want to get. So I actually think Rough Cutt coming out so late, maybe none of us were ready to have that kind of success. You know, we were young, full of piss and vinegar, and I think that's why I think it keeps me going. My mom was a singer. I was singing, you know, stuff from Sophie Tucker to, you know, Mammy, how I love you, Judy Garland stuff in the household, you know, and my father being Sicilian, listening to Perry Como, Al Martino, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, hearing all this stuff, music all the time. We had music going on all the time in our home. So I think, you know, maybe I wasn't ready for it, even though I never thought about singing heavy rock, heavy metal. I was singing R&B and in bars and all of that. And
proper R&B, not what they call R&B now.
Yeah. With the Dio people, you know, it was really weird how that all came about. And I was singing, you know, Kill the King from Rainbow, and then I got to meet Ronnie, and I actually knew Wendy beforehand, who was married to a good friend of mine who was in a band called Mama Lion. And that was probably in the 1970.
Okay.
That band came out and went to Britain, and a girl named Lynn Carey was singing the lead on that. And he met Ian Pace, and Wendy was, at that time, she was married when she was very young to Ainsley, and so those two hit it off, this friend of mine and her, and I got to meet her probably when I was 18 or 19 years old in Highland Park, California. And about that little time before that, I was jamming with Scott Gorham, and before he got into Thin Lizzy,
right.
He lived in La Crescenta. So there was a lot going on in Glendale when I was a kid and in the music industry. And I think that, you know, the reason I keep rocking and trying, I'm kind of finding really who I am, you know, and I think I'm getting more closer to it.
So what do you think of the current music scene, the rock scene? Certainly in I can only speak for the UK. Certainly here, it's very good. There's a lot of new, young, shall I say, hungry bands coming through, both rock and blues rock, and I mean Scandinavia. My God, I don't know what they got in the water over there, but the bands that come out of Sweden, etc., are incredible.
I think people are going back to their roots of rock and roll. Is kind of cool seeing young, and I think PlayStation had a lot to do with that, because you know, the rock guitar hero thing that they had out, it actually also, and I think influenced a lot of young kids that wanted to play. You know, it's a lot different now than it was when we were younger with bands or whatever, you know. Seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan and, you know, forming your neighborhood band, and being from the Midwest, even when I moved to California, school, when I was going to junior high, we put together a band, you know, and I ended up being fortunate enough to put a band together, and a drummer that was old enough that we were playing in clubs. So I think it's great that kids are kind of being influenced from some of the greatest music we grew up playing to. You know, there's some bands here that are the same, you know, like I like the band Shinedown. I think they're really they've kind of combined old style rock with some of the new current vibe, which is, it's just very clever to do. I'm still from the old school. It's kind of hard for me to I need to find somebody that can influence me on that aspect, you know. But there's nothing wrong with the old school. I'm falling into the pattern of I really want to play music that everybody wants to like. The song Sunset Blue goes through so many different changes in that record, that particular song, that I kind of want to lean towards that kind of music, you know, music that is a little more mature, that people, you know, we've all grown into a different stage of our lives, but we still hold on to that stuff that we grew up listening to, you know.
Well, I've got to say, I mean, I couldn't believe it when I got a chance to see Rough Cutt when you guys played Monster Rock Cruise. Was it 2018? Because I didn't think there was ever a chance I was going to see you guys play. And to get the chance to see you and also photograph you on that cruise, for me personally, was a fantastic experience.
Well, you know, it was a lot of fun for all of us to get back together because, you know, it was a reunion. And why this Rough Cutt 3 has come out is, like I said, we had gathered to do some stuff. Yeah. And in that time period, the stuff was before we went on the Monsters of Rock and stuff. We were messing around, gonna do some things, and we put together a project called Rough Riot, which was with Carlos and Sean McNabb and myself and David and Chris and the rest of the guys that didn't want to go out as Rough Cutt, you know, unless we all went out together. Okay. And then we found out of the blue that Dave and Chris had decided during the time period of the departure of Rough Riot, Dave and Chris didn't want to do anything with the guys from Quiet Riot anymore. So here we I thought was the right thing to do is form an LLC. We're all equal partners in this business project, Rough Riot. I came up with the name. I came up with the name Rough Cutt. So I came up with this name Rough Riot, and a friend of mine came up with the logo and everything else. And here I find myself, we're in a litigation. Chris and Dave that don't want to play with Sean and Carlos decide to go through. So why they're putting us through this litigation of, I'm coming out with the Shortino record from Japan, and it's before COVID. And so we're in this litigation, and I'm going, oh my God, there's nothing to litigate over. Let's just dissolve the partnership. I want to keep the name because I came up with it and the logo. And so while we're going through this, they went ahead and found out that they could form an LLC for Rough Cutt. So, but they don't own the logo. So those guys went ahead and started a Rough Cutt and we found out, Chris, Amir, and Matt, or myself, Amir, and Matt, found out that Chris and Dave had formed a Rough Cutt and locked us out of all the social media. And I went, oh. So I was in the middle of doing this record with Tracy, and they asked me, hey, would you want to finish what we started and see if Carlos might want to play, be a special guest on it? And so I said, sure. And so next thing you know, we put out a record on this label, DDL Music Group. And after that, he wanted to put out this BlueDahlia. So it's really interesting how the whole Rough Cutt 3, because we hadn't recorded anything except for the 3 bonus tracks on there.
Right. Okay.
that they were released on anthology with Cleopatra, but then we ended up having the rights to them, so that's why they were put on this record. But the other tracks we had tracked collectively, and Carmine is actually we're going to do a couple bonus tracks to this whole thing, and
cool.
He's going to do a couple new songs, and they're on a reprint. They're going to, on the Rough Cut 3, we're going to add some other stuff.
I'll have to buy it again then.
Yeah, and we're probably going to do a Rough Cut 4, because it's unbelievable that Amir and Matt have got demos that we were putting together before we had went different ways.
Okay.
And they're actually putting out Rough Cut the Perry McCarthy years. He replaced me when I went on to Quiet Riot, so they're going to release some tracks that they did with Perry.
Right.
And
okay.
yeah, so it'll be Rough Cut the Perry McCarthy years. I think he was just with them for a year, and they got a hold of me and said, "Paul, do you mind if we do this?" And I went, "Of course not. It's part of the heritage of the band." And I think that Dave and Chris should, because we asked them to quit using the name. We just said, hey, if you're going to call it Rough Cut, then call it Chris and Dave's Rough Cut, or, because we all made a pact. And I said, I think you're deceiving the fans. And not to top it off, is that I came up with the name. It used to be, I found it in a TV guide. It was Burt Reynolds Rough Cut, and it was spelled Roughcut. So I added a T to it. I think the people that actually own Rough Cut, the trademark is a cutting glass place.
Okay.
So there's different ways to own the trademark.
Yeah.
And so we're going about it the right way right now. It takes a long time. So
I think the sad thing of it is, speaking from a
actually
fan's
doing
point of view, is just
material, and they've got a singer that they had was Sarge, which is he's a great singer.
Yeah.
And I only wish them all the best, Dave and Chris, on their venture using Rough Cut. However, I just think they need to be a little bit more upfront with the fans.
Well, as I was saying, Paul, speaking as a fan, it's the problem is it's the same thing with Great White, and it was the same thing with Rat. The fans just get confused to what the hell's going on. So, and that's the problem. And there's always that real danger, the impact on the legacy of the band, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so I totally agree with you. That's why we had made an agreement that we weren't going to do what all these other bands were doing, and that if we ever went out as Rough Cut, we would go out with the original guys. And if we ever recorded, now the original guys are on that album, on the 3 tracks, and anything that was written. Hold on a second. I'm just going to tell this guy I'm call you later.
No worries.
I'm back. Anyways, that we said, hey, look, we're not going to do anything without the original guys. Now, I think there's a bad taste in the other. I don't have a problem with it, but I think if we were to go out as Rough Cut, we would go out as Amir, Matt, myself, and probably Carlos Cavazo if he wanted to. He said he would. However, now we're doing a record with King Kobra, and he's one of the guitar players. So, along with Rowan Robertson. So, what's really interesting is English guitar players play a little different than American guitar players. So, it's kind of cool what we got going on.
Well, hopefully, either as King Kobra or as Rough Cut, or I could be greedy as both, you managed to come over the pond and play some dates over here, because I think the fans will certainly appreciate it.
Oh, I think Carmine wants to do some touring with the King Kobra. I want to do some touring on this Blue Dahlia. Rough Cut guys, Matt's got a studio business, so he's really a lot of times really locked down doing projects for record companies or whatever that they're sending him stuff. And Amir's doing a lot with Julian K. However, it's not out of the realm. We've talked about it, and but I really would like to tour this record with Tracy. He's got the whole band already. So the guys that did the album,
right? Okay,
all live close to him, and so it would be it would really be nice to get out there for me and him to play, because we spent a year and a half putting this thing together. It took some time, and we put a lot into it, and without it being a real a chore. Some of it just fell together. Some of it, like the track for Stevie Ray. Now, my friend that I met, the first guy I met when I came to California, was this guy, Joe McCabe. And we reconnected, and he plays guitar. Well, he wrote the lyrics to the song Alpine Valley, which is all about Stevie Ray, Eric Clapton, and Buddy Guy playing and getting it on before he passed away. And was, the helicopter crash.
Yeah.
And that's what the song's about. And I don't think anybody actually has ever written a song about Stevie Ray. And so Tracy said, I got this blues vibe on this guitar that's tuned to B. And it's just, there's only like 3 songs on the record that are with this special guitar. And that is Falling from Grace, Count on You, and this Stevie Alpine Valley song. And so he sent it over, and so between the 3 of us, we wrote this song. And it all just fell together. The melody came to pass. I had to move a few lyrics around, but his guitar is his whole part. I had to just make some edits here and there, but he got back to me, and it just all fell right into place. But I really want to tour with that record. I think people would really like it. I think it would appeal to a larger, not just metal guys, but some people that are into the blues, people that are into guitar playing, people that are into singing. It's some really good music on there that can last.
Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, then you guys manage to do a second album.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to. I want to go out and tour with him, and we just hit it off, and we've never even met.
So playing live together will be a real experience.
Absolutely. We were going to do a gig at Vamped, and we'll probably do one next year. But we were going to do one with, and once we start out there, we might be doing some dates in the U.S. And then I'd love to come over to the U.K. We really want to push this record because it's some really good music, and we're all out about the money, so it's not about the money touring. Everybody else, it's all about how much are we getting on a tour, and these guys just want to play, and I want to sing, and it's like building anything. You got to start almost all over again. So, sometimes the money isn't what you expect it to be. And making a brand of this is also a start. Our names are on it, but we want to just brand it as Blue Dahlia.
Yeah.
So people will go, hey, I want to go see Blue Dahlia. Who, Paul Shortino's singing in the band, and Tracy G's the guitar player. And we want to kind of touch base with our roots, but still be able to expand on some new horizons. Even the King Kobra record is sounding very 70s.
That's fine by me.
It's got a taste of 80s on it, but it's really late 70s, where it's going into the genre of the 80s. So it's got a taste of Purple, Whitesnake, There's a lot of room for vocals and guitar work. So it's really this is really some cool. It is music as a piece of art. I'm really looking forward to people hearing this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing it. I'm certainly looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, it's Carmine is tripping on it. And the way we've been doing it is I kind of like people have been just sending me the ideas. And then I put the ideas together and the lyrics and the music and then send it out to everybody and they add their 2 cents to it. And then it goes back to Carmine and he plays the whole thing to a click and a vocal track. And then the guitar players, I've been playing bass on some of the stuff, the demo stuff.
Right.
And then the guitar players go back and play to his drums. So, because he doesn't play exactly like on a click. He's always like, just like, he'll play to a click, but it doesn't sound like he's playing to a click. He uses the click as like like if it was a cowbell.
Right.
He'll play around it, he'll play a little bit behind it. So the playing, then they have to play to his drums and my vocals. As long as my vocals in time, I might have to change a few things to just go along with his drum vibe, But it's really an interesting way that we've been doing this record. I've gotten to a point where it's like, it'd be like Jack Douglas. He did it with tape, cutting shit around and putting it back together. But you're still limited, when you're doing that. But with the computer, it makes it a lot easier. And it's been really a blessing for me because people will send me something and what they think might be a verse might be a chorus.
Right.
To me.
Yeah.
And when I send something back, Rowan has been tripping out because he'll come over, how we wrote some songs, he'll come over and I'll hum him some ideas and he'll play them on the guitar, his interpretation of it. So it's basically he's taking something I'm throwing at him like da 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 dan 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 da 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 dan. I'll sing something to him, and then he'll play it his way to a click, and we'll start there. Or him and Carmine actually with the song "Music is a Piece of Art," he sent him drums, and Rowan put an idea on it, and then they sent it to me, but it was only about 1.5 minutes long with parts in it. So I had to just go in there and, and then put some lyrics to it. And it's really interesting how things have been created.
It sounds to me like it's just organically growing. Yeah.
Yes. And it's not like we're playing we're following him now. It's almost like we put the song together and now we're sending him a vocal and maybe a guitar. Right now what's got to happen with some of this stuff is they have to retrack it. So now they're retracking to his drums and a click and my vocal. And then I'll go in and maybe change some of my vocal. I want to retrack it anyways, but some of it is magical. So I didn't do it with the mic I wanted to do it with, so I'll have to adjust it on the EQ and stuff like that. But sometimes it's better to have a vibe. Like I was talking about that song, Nothing's Gonna Stop Me in Germany, right? And the engineer's getting sounds, and I've got everybody's hair standing on end, including my own. And the next thing you know, he's just getting sounds. And I had to re-sing the whole thing, but he lost the magic.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can do something over and over and over, but sometimes it's just magical.
It's just that one take.
You can never catch that again.
Well, Paul, it's going to be said an absolute pleasure chatting to you. Can
you send me your email and everything like that so I can send you some stuff?
I will indeed. Hear your stories of moving out in LA. Yeah, I'm not jealous in the slightest.
I want to send you some stuff though that you probably don't have, and
that'd be really cool. I'm gonna say good luck with the BlueDahlia album. I personally absolutely love it. Really, really enjoying it. It's just fantastic slab of hard rock with that bluesy undertone, and I can't wait to hear the King Kobra stuff. I really can't. You've got me very excited for that.
We're going to do some little video snips of some BlueDahlia stuff. The We Can Rise, I'm actually taking some video footage of homeless people and helping homeless people.
Cool.
And caretakers helping homeless people, and dogs, saving dogs. And that's really, we're just going to do little short niplets of that we can rise helping each other, because we can. And the world needs that from each other, because governments aren't going to do it.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
They think they think they know how to fix everything, but it seems like they make things worse. When communities and people helping each other, we get things done. And so I'm in the process of just doing little minute snippets to go, and maybe different parts to go, with the song, so that people, can just be kind of spiritually uplifted as well, and want to maybe buy the record as well, because it's easier to put stuff like that on social media than doing a whole video.
Yeah.
So folks, just keep an eye out there. We'll be posting a lot of stuff, and I'll send you some stuff. And it's been an awesome time hanging out with you and rapping.
It's been a great chat. You take care of yourself, and hopefully I'll speak to you again soon.
Absolutely. God bless you. Peace out.
Cheers now. Thanks, Paul. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.